So I've gone on probably 50 different random tirades about this Diancie set, and there's a very clear and obvious reason why. I'm a dirty hyper offense player and I know nothing else. But in a more serious note, Diancie is probably the mon y'all have seen me struggle the most with this generation. You can throw out your Oricorios, your Umbreons, yada yada yada. Nah, it's Diancie, and it's this specific set because every time this bastard uses Trick Room, you immediately see me hide in my little turtle shell, scared of the world around me. So we're gonna talk about why, of course, before we get far into this. Leave a like if you like Pokemon. You're watching this video, you must like Pokemon, so go down there and leave a like, subscribe while you're down there as well. I wanna hit 10k subs by the end of the year. I think we could do that. But obviously, we need your help, so join the movement. Don't be a loser, be a winner. Real winners support this channel. Now, I also have one replay. Admittedly, this replay is not the greatest for Diancie, but I'm gonna be honest, when I was looking for replays, I couldn't find one where Diancie itself dominated, so I found one where Diancie would've under any other circumstance, except the one that the game presented. Which I think is pretty fair, so, I mean, there you go. But why we should start off. Why does this Diancie set work to begin with? Well, you may have noticed that I mentioned, I'm a hyper offense player. That is what I use a lot of just for ladder because it's how you can get a lot of quick games. I like getting quick games for y'all. And when I'm not playing balanced to try to like actually learn, alright, what defensive structures do I like in this metagame? I play hyper offense just so I can, have some fun. And yeah, this Diancie kind of just beats most hyper offenses. It's not an instant win, but it's particularly good. So as I go into my builder here, obviously we can look at some of the variants of HO that I've got in my builder, and there's nothing in here I care about hiding, so I'm just gonna show y'all. Obviously snow, and we can even extrapolate this down to weather, so I'll bring that up here. Weather offense is one of the strongest archetypes this generation that we've had in NU, whether it was sun pre-drought ban, whether, hell, it's annual rain right now, whether it's sand back in the SCL meta, whether it's, snow if you want to go back to Gen 8 even, you could pretend. Weather HO has pretty consistently the past 2 generations been strong in NU, and the big issue that this runs into when you face Diancie is you're entirely predicated around being fast. Setup spam HO doesn't necessarily have to be fast to beat you down, right? You're going to have more forms of priority potentially. You've got your E-Speed Lucarios, you've got your Sucker Punch, your Celerock on your Lycanrocs. You could even have something like a Vacuum Wave Infernape if you wanted to be something a little spicier like that. And so as a result, when you get the Trick Room put on, it's not the end of the world. You don't completely lose your team's identity. But when you're running Weather, it's very, 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 very tough because you're basically losing what makes your build function. The whole point. I'm gonna get a Weather and I have all these speed boosting abilities. Conveniently also when you're running Rain, you get this super boost due to Weather, your water type moves, but Pokemon like Basket Legion, all of a sudden, a lot worse when I'm just outsped by everything. Ludicolo, same deal. Hisuian Quillfish, same deal. If you wanted to look at Kingdra as well, or any other Swift Swimmer, it's the same issue. Everything on this team, just about, at least all the offensive Pokemon, get absolutely reamed by Trick Room. Because what am I doing? My Basket Legion's not very bulky. I got nice HP, but that's it. You have a Diancie under Trick Room, especially as y'all saw the set Terra Grass. I'm toast. Ludicolo, this spawn's already pretty bad. Ludicolo is quite literally just viable in NU because of the combo of how good Rain is, but also because it's a tertiary setter. You do like having that third Rain setter option, even if it's not for the full 8 turns that you get with Damp Rock user. Ludi's still plenty good enough to facilitate some extra turns, even if it's just for itself. You really don't need that being taken away from it. Mon already has nothing going for it practically. You don't need to have it getting less than nothing going for it. Thunderous, I mean, you could argue it doesn't really matter for Thunderous, but it's still annoying because if I have my Rain up, I'd like to throw off Thunders and Weather Balls uninhibited. Can't really do that under Trick Room. And assuming Quillfish, well, I'm not running Aqua Jet under Rain. So, you know, Eviolite on this mon nowadays, compare its bulk relatively back to when this mon was like top of the meta, it's just not that good to have happen to you. And obviously the same issue's going to apply to Snow, except I'd argue defensively Snow is even worse because Ice is just so bad as a defensive typing. Now, you do get the Snow boost to your defense stat. That does help at least marginally. The problem is, and if we can look at like this as a full Trick Room team, even though the focus is more on Diancie, you have a lot of special attackers. You got the Diancie and you got the Reuniclus. I guess that's fewer special attackers than physical, but you get what I'm going for, of course. Multiple powerful special attackers that don't care. Diancie obviously murks you entirely just through typing. And, I mean, you don't have to be Terra Grass. You can do, like, Steel, you can do Water, you can do Ground, do a lot of different Terra types just to tech for different matchups. And you potentially could end up with a much better Snow matchup than you would otherwise with Diancie, just by virtue of changing the Terra type. Grass just ends up being the best most of the time, because it gives you the most, like, type flipping. Trying to flip that Grass weakness, that Water weakness, and that Ground weakness, and Grass does that better than any other Terra type could. But, of course, you look at this build. Also, this did loop, by the way. I hope y'all are aware of this. There's literally a bug with YouTube. I am, at this point, very aware. There is a bug with YouTube. I am not the one forgetting to loop this. I check it every video now. So, there you go. Just in case you're ever wondering why it doesn't loop sometimes, yeah, there's just a YouTube glitch. But, again, let's talk about all these mons. So you got Titan. Alright, what the hell do I do after setting up a Belly Drum and then having a Trick Room thrown up? Or hell, what do I even do about... Here's the thing, right? Setting up a Belly Drum with this mon's hard enough. What do I do when Trick Room's up the whole time? Or even just when Diancie is there to manage, like, my ability to try to set up. Diancie keeps doubling in front of me. I could never get, like, a true opportunity to set one up. Like, yeah, I could Terra Ground EQ at some point and look to maybe, you know, catch it off guard or something because it sets up the room. There's no guarantee that really works. There's also a lot of, asset dedicating to potentially just stifle one Pokemon, and if it wins you the game, it wins you the game, but a lot of the time I feel like it's not going to. Diancie itself isn't necessarily the biggest roadblock for Snow, and if you're having to burn your Terra on Titan just to get chipped with EQ, not exactly the best look for you. And if Diancie wants, you could still just go for Meteor Beam chip the next turn, or Moonblast chip, and you're never going to set up with this mon. And you're still potentially facing full Trick Room. If you're just facing regular HO that's got a Diancie, it's probably still not very good for you because you're still going to be slower than whatever comes out. Because a Slush Rush making you, you know, so fast. Doesn't really work well for you there. Obviously, this guy... Look, we don't really talk about Alolan Sandslash. I think this one's genuinely horrible. Or at least on the role of Snow Sweeper. But it's not doing any... It's doing even... We talked about doing less than nothing. This is a great example of one that'll be doing less than nothing. Because you might want to be boosting with Rapid Spin as well. So there's, you know, two things working against you when you're talking about facing the Room Diancie. And it's like Beartic, kind of the same deal, where this mon, at the very least for Beartic, it already is kind of slow. So there are circumstances where you may end up being not completely messed up by the Room going up. If you can, like, somehow, you know, get rid of the Diancie and then have Beartic under Room without Slush Rush active. But it's still not exactly something you really, really like, you know? Then you can look at, like, our other HOs as well. We got Grassy Terrain. This is actually where you see the... How do I say? Probably the worst Trick Room angle. Because Diancie, again, Grassy Terrain, you're running Terra Grass most of the time. A lot of these mons just don't deal with you anymore. Like, wait, what of these guys exactly wants to deal with Diancie? Now, you may argue, alright, well, when does Diancie ever set up a Trick Room? And you might be right. Except there's a Flygon on this team. There's an Oricorio, which you could always just... You've got the annoying 50-50 turns on whether Terra can block your Rev Dance. Stuff like that. Your Fire just doesn't one-shot me, and then I Trick Room, and its Unburden is completely made, like, again, literally, you're trolling by having Unburden. You're trolling by having Unburden. Arguably, you're trolling by having Speed Boosts. Now, the funny thing about the Oricorio sequence, and this is where we can actually play this battle out for a little bit and show you what I meant by under any other circumstance of Diancie 1. There's actually a world where Oricorio Pom Pom can stall out Diancie. So here's just a game from NUPL, Ryu versus Tear Acid. You see the lead Mew to set up the room and the rocks. Mr. Golurk decides that all egos must be perished or something. I don't know. He starts poltergeisting though, and he just keeps poltering and poltering. And you see with enough attack drops, even Oricorio could stall this out. So now the Diancie comes in. It only has one boost here, mind you, but you see Diancie's hard body, very hard body, takes that hit, sets up the room, and he even goes for a Meteor Beam here just to get the special attack boost, and that's like startling amounts of damage. But then you see here, because this has the special defense boost, it actually doesn't lose the Diancie, so it's able to stall those turns out. It does get picked off following that, but that's what I meant by like under almost any other circumstance, this Oricorio just was not going to be able to win. I mean, look at this dude's team, right, versus Diancie, OTR Diancie. Like, what's the stop? Like, what stops it? This, like, even into the balance matchups, I feel like OTR Diancie ends up being really hard to beat because the common cores don't love it unless you have, like, AV Reuni, and even then, it can sometimes be a little annoying. Diancie, like, if you don't have Flash Cannon, Diancie can still kind of give, or Energy Ball, one of the two. Diancie can still sometimes give you a bit of a headache, because Reuniclus doesn't two-shot. Like, look at our defensive mons in the tier right now. Slowbro ain't checking no damn Diancie. Magnezone has to... You've seen the sequences we've had to take. You've got to get a lot of switches and Terra turns correct to not have the worst Diancie experience imaginable. Jagalgalalga technically can take hits, but it's not really a favorable trade. AV Gallade can tank like one attack or something from unboosted Diancie, and actually potentially follow up with an Oko with Leaf Blade, but it's not great. Alolan Muck is dog shit right now, so that mon hardly counts. Even then, still gotta risk facing Terra Steel on Diancie. We talked about Reuniclus just there. AV Reuni is probably like the best stopper. Copper Raj is not seen in this metagame, and even then, Earth Power is pretty scary. Incineroar, I am Meteor Beaming you into the Shadow Realm. Goodbye, sayonara, arrivederci. Klefki, Earth Power is a move. Something like Purr, you better be at full health. Take the Moonblast at +1, and even then, you don't follow up with a KO. Sylveon, kind of the same issue, where Sylveon just doesn't Oko Diancie, and you still have to take like a ton of hits along the way. If you have Terra Steel, it's at least a little bit more favorable of a trade. You know, again, you have that little wrinkle in the interaction, but it's still not very clear. You just are kind of hoping you stall out Trick Room turns at that point. And, you know, you get down to here at this point, the mons are a lot more niche, but the whole point really there is just a lot of these mons don't have the cleanest interaction with Diancie. You've got a very favorable time against every offense. And offense being so good, Trick Room typically being the response to a lot of offense. You've got Ditto and Trick Room as like the two traditional ways that you fight back against high-powered hyper offense. It's kind of just tough. When Diancie is so commonly being rolled up with right now, it has a lot of really powerful matchups that I feel we haven't maybe put enough respect on. The VR is obviously a little out of date right now. You know, y'all see Diancie down at B+, and you're like, oh, what? It's talking about this mon like it's an A rank threat. Well, debatably in this meta it is. It's just, we're, you know, updated this about a month ago, and obviously we're not going to update it before the shifts because there's just no reason. I mean, come on, the meta's going to completely change. We're losing 1, 2, 3, probably 4, 5, like, you know, a whole bunch of these top tier mons that literally define the whole tier. So we'll have this updated sometime after that shift. But I would actually argue Diancie is somewhere in the A ranks right now, just because it is literally a meta trend demon. You look at what the best archetypes are, you look at what the best defensive structures are, and just about everything goes right in the favor of offensive Trick Room Diancie. And even Trick Room as a whole. I mean, we have literally seen Trick Room get used multiple times in NUPL, like within the past couple weeks. And maybe have to go back further in just the most recent weeks. Because, like, if I go to week 7, I don't know exactly how much Trick Room I would see here. Like, let's see. Can we pull up a single Trick Room replay? Let's see. Looking for literally... Oh, here was this really terrible battle. I'm not even gonna elaborate on why that battle was terrible. I just need you to trust me. Because, believe me, ass. That's the only word we got for that. Is there a single Trick Room game? I swear. There should have been, like, one. Yo, guys, what's going on here? Y'all just decide to make me look silly before I recorded? Is that what the point of this was? Because it's working. It's working really well. So, guys, there's been a lot of other offense and a snow this week. Hold on. I got this. Week 6. Surely there's one Trick Room game. It's just fun. I mean, I can go back to previous weeks as well, but it's like, I don't want to. I wanted to show y'all the past couple weeks. Oh, oh yeah, here's where a stall got reamed by Grassy Turn, and that was really funny. Come on, I'm just looking for one Trick Room game. Other than the one that I just showed y'all. I got this one too. Freeze-Eyed Django. Right, that was Sun's Final Stand. We had that game there where we bought a Persian. It was a very fun pick by BHD. Not his name, but I say it like that anyway. Fight me. You know, we may have just not had Trick Room. Ah, here we go. This game was not like the greatest showing for Trick Room, but of course you could see again just the Trick Room into balance, where it's a pretty scary matchup because look at Golurk here, right? Where nothing takes Poltergeist on this team unless you're Itemless Plume. And I don't think in this meta, Itemless Pokemon are worth running because Poltergeist is just not part of the meta that extensively. So this is kind of what we're talking about, where you want to just emphasize, or where I'm emphasizing like the threat of Trick Room, just independent even of the hyper offense counter matchup. It's still just really, really good because a lot of these sweepers are so strong. Like, what does this team really do? Now you'll see, because pretty sure Fish Thermometer wins. As you can see there, you get the Lurker in. Somehow this is slower. 103. This is literally almost no speed Copper Raja. Now, this mod actually has like 96 uninvested, so it is technically pretty reasonable. But I remember watching this and thinking it was the funniest shit when this Golurk straight up lost the exchange because this thing didn't have enough speed to outrun it. Now, I don't know why they Terra Dragoned. Personally, I think Poltergeist is always getting clicked there, but I mean, it worked out, obviously. Favorable exchange. The only problem now is this Diancie is a massive threat. And then you bring out the Crab because it's a free hit here. Good Inteleon pivot as the room expires. Ryuni has to come out to reset the room. Then you get Diancie in, and at this point, it's pretty bleak. This is where we're talking about as well, by the way, the whole AV Gallade interaction, where if Diancie does not have the boost, you do win the trade. So I think technically you should have Meteor Beamed here, but at the same time, they would have just sacked like Copper Raja there instead. Probably was better to sack Copper anyway, if I'm honest, because this risks a crit. And I don't think that's very worth it. Yeah, if Diancie had crit this game was potentially just over. So I think it's a like slight misplay, but it's not like some like super damning one, of course, right? And then the Vileplume reveals that it's toxic, which I've never seen a Vileplume click in my life, but it worked out just fine. So we see Trick Room get managed pretty alright there. But of course the potential for disaster was present. Just given the matchup was, again, like we're talking like super, super favorable. And I believe this was the week where we got the tier game with Trick Room? No. I think there was one other Trick Room game this week. I will admit, I thought it had gotten used a little bit more than it actually has. I want to check the replays just a little bit more. This is a Diancie video still, by the way. Oh, wait a minute. Was it this one? No. Was it this one? Oh, I saw that. Guys, am I just stupid? Was it this one here? I'm going crazy. Was it this one? There it is. Yeah, we had Seraphs versus Floss here as well. And this is where you see, like, literally just raw HO versus Trick Room. So this is the ideal matchup. But I think I've got some bad news for you. I'm pretty sure this game did not go the way Seraphs wanted it to. Remember, that did 0. It did, in fact, again, we talk about less than 0. That's one of those great moments where you just have to say that, yeah, that did nothing. So again, another player smartly being able to pivot, because this is how you have to play against Trick Room, right? You have to play against Trick Room very, very, very aggressively. You've got to, where you can, when you have HO versus this style, get your ins where you can find them. So as you saw in our game of, oh, who was it that was playing? It was week 6 we were looking at. It was the, God, why can't I remember who replay we watched? It was, Stresh versus Fish. You saw Fish pivot in the Inteleon on the Ice Hammer as Trick Room expired in that game, and that ended up being a really good way for them to get a free turn. And then you have the same thing here, where the Lucario gets pivoted on the Crabominable. And then we see a bit of a play. It ends up being good because you tank the E-speed, but it could have been, like, obviously terrible. And then we also have the Reuniclus come out here, because I'm actually pretty sure this variant of HO, it's actually double Trick Room here. We've seen this team get used a bit, if I'm not mistaken, this tournament as well. Kind of a semi-room in a way, where you actually just have straight up 2 Trick Room users of your own. Meteor Beam missed there, of course, just like cost you the entire game, because if you landed there, then you force them to have to try and risk a speed tie with the Diancie, and it's, you know, not very good for them. And then you have the Screamer come out, dies to the EQ, and then this guy gets to set up again, and then he's just, oh, it's bleak. Oh, it's just so bleak. And then the Golurk comes out and Poltergeist twice. And unfortunately, this guy does live. Goes for the Meteor Beam here, instead of just going for the safe Moonblast, which would definitely have killed, right? Surely it killed. Anyhow, though, all this to say, Trick Room is actually getting quite a bit of usage, and in my opinion, at least, it is largely spurred on by Diancie. I think Diancie is incredible in this metagame, and if you aren't believing, well, you best get to believing, because I will be rolling up with more Diancie. I forget when it would have been, which month, but I remember seeing people talk about it, like, yeah, I'm gonna start running over Bronzong, because Robbie running around with this Meteor Beam, Muse, and Diancie's on every team. You bet your sweet Bippy I am, and I'm gonna do it again, damn it. Hope y'all enjoyed this. A little shorter video than normal. Today I was just a little uninspired and wanted to talk about this because I thought it was a very fun meta trend, all things considered. Take care though, y'all. Stay safe. Catch you next time. Peace.